Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Thursday, August. This is episode 219. What a day, what a time to be alive in the city of San Antonio. Chuck, how are you besides hungry?
Yes, but I'm enjoying Bazooka Joe bubblegum.
Something I haven't had in a long time.
You should revisit it because it tastes just like I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, but the flavor goes away in about 5 minutes.
That's okay. That's the way I remember it being. Therefore, you keep popping the stuff in your mouth and you have to go buy more. Mission accomplished. Thank you, Bazooka Joe.
Couldn't you like 500 Bazooka Joe wrappers and get like
Probably a kazoo or something. Yes.
You're also the only person that I've ever seen throw away an entire bag of beef jerky just because they saw something that they didn't like.
Dude, and I smelled it too. So it was like, no, I do not need to end my day with even one chance of that going the wrong way, if you know what I mean.
We'll just steer right away from that one. All right. Well, exciting day in San Antonio for pretty much everybody who cares about the existence of downtown and in the future of downtown San Antonio. There's two huge votes going on today. One has already happened. One is going to happen momentarily. I'll keep if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking for an update on the latest vote, which is likely to go in favor of those advancing the term sheet between the Spurs and the city and county. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, both News 4, Fox SA. Download, rate, review the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us out a lot, especially this time of year going into football season, and basketball season will be right around the corner, even though I feel like we never stop talking about the Spurs nowadays. Our only topic for today is Project Marvel in the Spurs arena, because that's frankly all anyone is talking about in the city of San Antonio and the surrounding areas. So we're going to talk all about that, but I want to start, as we usually do, with area code 219. I want you to take 10 seconds and give it to me. I'll give you a hint too.
Okay. I'm going to need many hints.
I'll give you one hint. You're going to be there week 2 of the college football season.
South Bend, Indiana?
Close. It's
okay.
Right next to there.
Okay.
Northern Indiana is the
219 area code. I should know that. I should actually know that because I have many cousins in that area, and I do believe now that you've said that, looking at my phone from time to time, which I'm prone to do, that I do get a call or a text from the 219 area code.
I don't think I've ever gotten a call from a 219 area code, but
Tom Guerrero's in the house.
You should have known that too.
Hello, Tommy.
Tom, can you let me know when they pass the vote, please? Thank you. Appreciate it. I figured that, Bob, you would have known the area code 219 because that's pretty close to it's kind of close to Cleveland.
Is it?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's a northern Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana and then Ohio.
They're right next to each other.
Right next to each
You
other?
know that?
Can you believe that? Who knew?
Never had a reason to leave Ohio.
One other thing, one other shout out I want to give is to a guy named Cody who tagged me on Twitter and got the joke or saw my face when you said "open up wide," coming down your throat last podcast, and I couldn't say that's what she said, because we were right in the middle of a serious conversation. But thank you for catching my drift there, my friend, because I looked right at Bob and I said, and then I saw Javi over there cracking up.
And I'm trying to keep this PG for the general audience.
You said it. I couldn't stop. Anyway,
Okay.
For all the people who are listening, I'm sorry that I had to bring that up, but I really had to, because it made my day yesterday to see somebody screenshot my face after you said that and tag me on Twitter. It was hilarious. Anyway, so Project Marvel. A lot of stuff has happened today. Start at the end and then we'll go to the beginning. The city council they had like 4 hours of public comment. There's 108 people signed up, 15 or so didn't show up. They took a recess, and then as soon as they came back from recess, they took a vote. They didn't even open up council discussion for the mayor's resolution. They just went right to the vote for the mayor's resolution. And it didn't seem like there was much debate about that. So that might have been pre-planned, and there's some speculation as to why the mayor seemingly gave up a little bit, because she came out, she said thanks to Peter Holt for coming in person and asking for this money and not sending one of his lackeys to do it for him. And then they went to a vote, and her resolution to put a strategic pause on Project Marvel, a strategic pause on the Spurs arena discussion, failed 7-4, which is pretty much how we anticipated it going anyway. So Now they're doing their council discussion, and for people who don't know how city council goes, usually each council person will get 10 minutes on a specific topic. Now that they're on number 5, which is the term sheet, and to move forward with it, each council person is taking their full 10 minutes, as you would anticipate. Then the mayor will get 10 minutes. If anyone wants to argue or bicker or do whatever they're going to do, they're going to do that, and then they're going to vote. The vote is likely going to be 7-4 in favor of moving forward with the term sheet. So let's go to the beginning of today. That's where we're at now. Let's go to the beginning of the day when the meeting kind of started with some fireworks, and you were listening to that before you went to the
fall premiere.
Fall premiere. Thank you. I've been listening to it all day, and I feel like my eyes have glazed over. But it was interesting, and it is interesting, especially right at the beginning when the mayor was, for lack of a better term, trying to corner the Spurs owner, Peter J. Holt, into saying yes or no. Are you in favor of an independent analysis, another independent economic analysis? And she asked him that like 3 times. He kept saying what he was going to say. He wasn't going to answer that question specifically with a yes or no answer. And so this is kind of what happened. You can go ahead and play that one, Javi.
I'm going to try just one more time. Just kind of yes or no, Mr. Holt. Is there an opposition to us seeking an independent economic study and allowing us additional time to engage with our constituents? Just yes or no, please.
I'm going to try one more time again. There's ample information that shows that this city deserves. This city deserves
Order, please, order.
This city deserves an urban core that we are proud of, that is unifying, that's accessible, and that makes San Antonio world-class, continues San Antonio's progress to be a world-class destination, and we're willing to invest billions of dollars into that. Thank you.
So it was unclear at the beginning. There was 2 contingents of people in city council today, people who wanted it, people who didn't want it. And so it's unclear who was cheering when he started answering. We do know that it was a larger contingent of people that were there supporting it than not supporting it. However, when it came to the public comment, more people spoke against moving forward with the term sheet more people spoke in terms of or in favor of the pause than in terms of moving forward with the term sheet, is how I should say that. So I thought that was interesting because that was like right off the jump. That was like part of the opening script, as you will, in football. Like she came out and that was one of her plays at the beginning. She wanted to call up Peter Holt, and it was a kind of against procedure there at first. And then she had to do all these procedural things to get Peter Holt up there to talk about it. But what did you kind of make of the beginning of that? Because it seemed like she was coming out guns fire and trying to get an answer.
Well, I mean, I think, she asked a fair question, and obviously they didn't feel comfortable. The Spurs didn't. Peter J. Holt didn't feel comfortable answering directly the question. I mean, I'm sure the Spurs feel like they've already basically done the research on what the project is going to beget, and they've already got all this money that they're going to invest in the project. So interesting exchange for sure, and I think there were some other tete-a-tetes that were fascinating as well. It's very, very weird how we're getting this down the road, right? I mean, you would expect people to have an opinion on this at this point, and whether or not people's opinion will be swayed. And we're going to assume that this is going to actually end up on a ballot, at least the first part of it, in November.
It is going to be on a ballot in November. The county venue tax.
Everything that I'm hearing is they may have as many as 9 votes when they get ready for this. So, it looks like there's more things going on behind the scenes in terms of trying to work the room and sway people's votes one way or the other in terms of the votes that matter at this particular juncture. So I'm curious to see how the vote ends up playing out, because I think it sure feels like there's a sense that the city council members that are currently elected, and that group is getting wider and that group is getting bigger in opposition to the mayor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there was some weird things that happened. After that happened, you go right to the public comment, and there was 108 people signed up to speak. There were some repeats, so let's just say give or take 100 people that signed up to speak. One of them, Shawn Elliott. I mean, there was Peter Holt. There was Jenny Carnes, one of our favorite people in all of San Antonio, the head of San Antonio sports. You had the head of the Chamber of Commerce. You had the Latino Chamber of Commerce. You had just so many people, and then random citizens. And we'll hear from one of them here in a second. There was just so many people that came to speak. And one really weird moment that kind of rubbed me the wrong way is there's this contingent of people called Cops Metro, which is a lot of community organizations that are led by Father Jimmy. I'm going to get his name wrong. Jim Drennan, I believe is what his name is, who are against Project Marvel, against public funds going to private development. And so, even though that's not necessarily what this is, but let's just say it is. When Gina and the mayor did her press conference the other day, Cops Metro was up there with her. So was Jalen McKee Rodriguez, who is a sitting councilman, but is on paternity leave for his child. Congratulations to him and his husband. They were up there with her. And then Drennan and his contingent of Cops Metro people were 36, 37, 38, and 39 on the on the list of public speakers. Somehow they went up 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. I don't know how that happened, but Gina's the mayor is the one that's doing the calling of people, and she went completely out of order to get them up there early. And that was a little peculiar to me, especially seeing as that she was up there with them the other day, and somehow they skip an hour ahead in this line of people. So I just thought that was kind of crazy as well, as far as the public comment aspect of this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some people up there that made some valid points, and there's some people up there. Obviously, this is a passion for them, right? That they would come out and give of their time and make their case. It's just, some of this is, I don't really know how much is theater at this point. I mean, it's a non-binding agreement, right? So it doesn't mean that things can't change between now and whatever that ballot's going to look like in November. It's a non-binding agreement. So, the fact that you've I think it's pretty much assumed that they're going to get the votes to move to the next phase of this. There's some of this, I don't know how much of this is just redundancy at this point. I mean, there were the theatrics yesterday, where the mayor went down and the project people were down making their cases for this. And, when you start trying to grab microphones from people, and I don't know if that's the way that I would necessarily handle it. In fact, I know that's not the way I would handle it. I mean, if people have a right to make their case one way or the other, and, obviously nobody is suppressing opposition to the project at this point. So I'm curious to see where the vote goes, and then see if there's any other strategic maneuvers by either party, I should say, going against this,
Javier,
going for it.
I'm going to go to Shawn next. Shawn Elliott sound. So Shawn and the contingent of Spurs brass that were there. I mean, Brian Wright was there. RC Buford was there. Shawn was there. Peter Holt was there. Like, anybody who has any affiliation, it felt like, with the Spurs was in that room today. And Shawn gave an outstanding speech, as you would assume that Shawn Elliott would do, because he is just that kind of guy. And so I wanted to play it in full just because I thought it was very eloquently said. So let's go ahead and hear from Shawn Elliott, and then we'll hear from a couple of people on the other side of it.
Motion carried.
I'm Shawn Elliott, obviously. I've been a proud member of the San Antonio community and a Spurs employee for over 35 years. I was drafted here in 1989 by the San Antonio Spurs, and I was a young man who knew nothing about the city. And I quickly learned when I got here how much the people of San Antonio meant to the San Antonio Spurs and how much the Spurs meant to the people. I was constantly sent out by the Spurs to countless schools across this city to encourage kids to excel in the classroom, to respect your teachers, to stay away from drugs and gangs, and to stay in school. The Spurs have always been an instrument for bigger things, to build up San Antonio.
A bunch of commenters are letting us know it.
And that spirit continues today, whether it's visiting wounded warriors, fixing playgrounds, speaking to students in school, leading
Tom wants
charitable
Chuck as mayor.
functions and events for the less fortunate, especially during the holiday season. Spurs players past and present have never been more active in the community than they are today. I have friends and colleagues across the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, and I can say without hesitation that no other professional sports franchise engages the community like the San Antonio Spurs do. The impact is immeasurable. And there's a reason that so many of us stay here. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, George the Iceman Gervin. They're all legends. They could live anywhere they want, but they laid down roots right here in San Antonio. And I did too, because there's a special bond here between the team, the city, and its people. It's special. But it's not just about basketball. Over the last 3 decades, I've watched San Antonio grow into one of the most dynamic, diverse, and welcoming cities in the entire nation. From our military presence, to our thriving small businesses, to our incredibly rich cultural traditions like Fiesta that make us so unique. We are a city on the rise. We saw that earlier with our culinary chefs. This gives us a chance to really soar. And that's why Project Marvel matters. It's more than just a new arena. It's an investment in our city's future. It will help San Antonio step out of the shadows of other Texas cities and assume its rightful place as the #1 city in Texas. It's obvious that I love this city. I'm sorry for taking so much of your time, boss. But I built my life here. I want to see it continue to grow and thrive for many generations to come. Project Marvel can make that happen. So thank you for all of your time, and thank you for believing in San Antonio.
All right, so that was Shawn Elliott speaking today at City Council. Breaking news that just happened while we were listening to that soundbite. 7-4 is the final vote.
Wow.
So just kind of along, not along party lines, but along the lines of exactly how we thought this was going to go coming into the day. 7 final vote to advance with the term sheet as it is currently constructed. It allows Eric Walsh, the city manager, to continue on negotiating a further contract and more specifics with the San Antonio Spurs. And now we all kind of look forward to the November election, which is where the voters will have a chance to have their say on exactly what the terms of this deal are by voting for the increase in the venue tax at the county level. So thoughts?
Yeah. So looks like it's going to be a 2-part thing, right? We're going to have one ask in the fall and one that's been moved to the spring, although that initially was going to be boom, boom. You went into the polls in November, and then they decided to split them up, which I think was probably the right move and the smart move if you're the Spurs and you're going to the public for a couple of different asks on this one.
So now that the term sheet is approved, we got this information directly from City Manager Eric Walsh yesterday. The attention now shifts towards negotiating binding agreements with the Spurs in a somewhat piecemeal fashion. The development will not be one giant contract. It'll basically be several smaller contracts addressing various things. We also learned today the city will not be spending their own money on a public awareness campaign, but the Spurs are going to be doing that campaign. Bobby Perez, the counsel, the attorney for the Spurs, said during council discussion today when they were discussing the resolution that as soon as tomorrow, they're going to be reaching out to council offices and figuring out, okay, when are you guys having community meetings? When can we come talk to your constituents? When can we do all of these things to start getting the word out about exactly what the terms of this deal are? Now that it's approved, now that we know exactly what the terms are of this deal, we can kind of start discussing, okay, now we kind of know what the public is going to be voting on. So,
yes, I think what's fascinating for me, what I found out over the last 24 hours, and I guess Trish DeBerry was the one that said this first, maybe, but I heard it from a completely different source. And I don't know if we're talking about the same bits of information coming from the same source on this one. But, I think the concern of the mayor, she's spoken loudly about this, is why the rush? And the way I understand it now is that if you wait 6 months further down the road based on inflation, possible tariffs, whatever that may look like, the overall price tag of this entire project could go up $80 million every 6 months they wait. So in that regard, that would make sense, to me at least, as to why there's such a push to get this done and get this done as quickly as possible.
give me one. React to what Shawn said. I'm looking for we just got a statement from Peter J. Holt. I'm trying to get that out real quick. So what did you think of what Shawn said when he spoke to the council, to the mayor, and to the public, really?
Well, I think, if there's really one spur that I think that a lot of people almost instantly identify with, it's Shawn, right? I mean, easily the guy that's been the most engaged with not only Spurs fans, but people across the spectrum in this town since he set foot here, right? Always the guy, if you need him to do something, anything, he was the guy and always is the guy that's ready to step up and fill the void, no matter what it is. I mean, back in the day, whether it was reviewing CDs for us once a week, no matter what genre, and doing a great job with that, or, some of the things that he said, going to field days, speaking on behalf of the franchise today. So when he says it, I think that it matters. It resonates with a lot of people because, again, he said one thing in there, that the team is engaged publicly as much as they ever have been. I think on an individual basis, you can make that argument, but it's not like it was when Dave and Manu and Tony and Tim were, that era of guys, and maybe the group before them too, was, they had to be more engaging. Every contract in the NBA once upon a time said you had to have one community event per month to honor your contract. So those don't exist anymore.
Right.
So not that Shawn wouldn't have done it, I think, regardless of whether it's in a contract or not. I mean, he's still doing this kind of stuff. So I think when you hear him talk, he does. But I mean, again, he's
not that Shawn wouldn't do it anyway.
Right. But he's, if you're looking at the logo of the Spurs, man, there's a chunk of that puzzle that's got his face on it. Right. And he's an infinitely likable guy. And so when he's spreading the message that, hey, we want to get this, we want to move it forward, it's going to benefit everybody. I mean, I think that does make an impression on a lot of people.
So we just got the statement from Peter J. Holt, the managing partner of the San Antonio Spurs in entertainment. He says, quote, I'm going to jump around. This is a lengthy statement, but shocking how the statement came out so fast, too. Today's vote is an important step towards San Antonio. I want to thank the members of City Council, city staff, and county for their leadership, diligence, and collaboration in helping us reach this point. He goes over he summarizes what the Spurs will be contributing in this term sheet. He said there will be no impact on local residents' taxes, no money diverted from the city's general fund. Then he goes on to say, this will be a true public-private partnership. The arena will be publicly owned, funded by visitors, and built to revitalize our downtown, create jobs, and give future generations a place to celebrate together. Then he says he's looking forward to the November 4th vote, where he hopes that the citizens of San Antonio will vote yes on the raise of the venue tax, which is basically a tourism tax, which we learned today is 95 to 98% funded by visitors. Some of that, obviously, if you're doing staycations, rental cars, whatever, and you're a local resident, you will be paying into that as well. Bob, you got anything from people who are joining in? Thank you to everyone who told us the vote was 7-4. It was greatly appreciated, including Tom Guerrero.
Yeah. We just had Ankle Breaker 2 said the mayor embarrassed herself and her credibility is damaged over the last week. Another comment was from Ray Trevino. He said, Why rush? She is trying to do the right thing and make sure that the city doesn't get railroaded on this deal. When the city rushes, that's how mistakes happen. But I did want to bring up, there was one thing I wanted to bring up from one of the speakers during the day today was a UTSA professor, Hayden Sanders, said that there's problems with the economic study. He said the numbers don't add up and there's little information to back up the numbers that there was. What my real question is, like, let's just say that is a bad study or whatever. What does that actually mean? Like, what happens if those numbers are wrong?
People smarter than I should answer that question. But what he said was that, the numbers didn't add up, and he's an economics professor at UTSA. I think he knows what he's talking about. But I don't know what happens if the numbers are wrong, but they also said there was an $18 billion impact that's going to happen from this entire development over 30 years. Like, what if it's wrong and it's only $14 billion?
That's
impact?
what I'm saying. Like, so
it's still $14 billion, right?
I mean, is there a way that the city, gets hurt by this somehow? I'm not sure how.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really multi-layered question, right? Because there's really no way to project 100%, right? Accuracy wise.
Projection. It's just a projection.
Right.
100%.
There's no way to know exactly how it's going to be. And if they did an independent, the argument was like, what I heard from a lot of people that were pro Spurs and pro term sheet today was, if you get another independent study and it costs $250,000 to $500,000 and takes another 6 to 12 weeks, you're not going to have this until after the term sheet's done, or after the November vote anyway, probably. And what if it comes back and it's exactly the same? Then you have more numbers that are exactly the same. We don't know if that would be the case, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I wish we should probably do a story on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and I'm sure we will. That's the kind of the beauty of this going forward now that it is public and we're going to get to go vote. I mean, there are a lot of questions, right? Like, what happens if the Spurs take out these huge loans and have a hard time paying these loans back because of what you guys said? The numbers change, tariffs go up, inflation soars, whatever the case may be, right? There's so many targets on this as we speak, but at least in some regards, each individual in this city is going to have a chance to speak his mind or her mind one way or the other, pro or against. And I think, there's so many fascinating things to me about this whole endeavor as it's unfolded in front of the public, because this is about as hot of a potato as I can ever remember in this town over one particular item. And maybe this is the thing that really gets people into the process of going out and voting every time there's a vote to be cast one way or the other, whether you're 100% sure about a topic or another. I mean, the fact that we only had 150,000 people vote in the mayoral election when we have 1.9 million people in Bexar County, there's a lot to this. And I hope maybe this in some way, shape, or form is the driving force to get people to participate more in how their city works.
Yeah.
And this is a golden opportunity to do that. If this is the thing that gets us all off our rear ends and gets us into the process of how things work. I mean, I don't know that I've ever listened to more of these kinds of debates than I have in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And it's all right there. You can go to any .gov and get it. And so I don't know. I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this one way or the other.
Whatever way you think about this certain situation, and we all have our opinions on it and whether they need a new arena or whether they don't, the best thing you can do is to be informed and to go seek out the information. A lot of times there's people that just want the information given to them, and there's people that don't want to give you some of the information, but I guarantee you that the information is out there. You can find it if you want the information. How much is this going to cost the city? What revenue streams is that going to come from? How's it going to be paid off? When's it going to be paid off? All of those things you can find information on. And so if you want that info, get it before November 4th and then go to the polls. If you feel strongly enough about this issue, you shouldn't have any problem going to the polls and voting, either registering to vote early or voting on November 4th on election day. So, I mean, municipal elections are historically low turnout. I mean, everywhere. Municipal elections, especially if it's not a general election year, historically low turnout. and even midterm elections, historically low turnouts. But if you feel strongly about this, go vote on November 4th or early vote, either way.
Couldn't have said it better, my friend.
There was a lot of people today who said that they were confused and they didn't like how this was playing out. And there are no of the confusion and the vitriol between some of the council members and the mayor. This is what one of them said. Her name is Nadia Miranda Colgrove. She's a San Antonio resident. Let's hear from her.
My no vote is not voting no for the Spurs. It's because this process has been compromised for me. My councilwoman has not asked myself, my neighbors, or her constituency. Let's have a public discourse, not to persuade me, but to ask what are my questions, my concerns, and even praises. So, I love the Spurs. Each one of you, I've told you my vote is no. Each one of you in your seats and your constituency, you have no votes right now. So, when the vote comes in November, if there's even one additional no vote, what is going to happen? So I asked you before you vote right now, an examination of conscience to say, what time and energy have I done to my constituency to move a no to a yes? Thank you.
And that was a reaction of a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people felt they haven't been heard yet, and I can't tell them they're wrong because there was community meetings before this term sheet came out. There was no community meetings after the term sheet came out because it came out on Monday and we're on Thursday. So there's no time. And that's what a lot of people were saying coming into this is why don't we just put this off a little bit? But when you heard from Eric Walsh today, he was like, we're actually already behind because we said we were going to have this out in July and we're in August, which is why we want everyone to have the information. We're only 75 days away from election day anyway. So they wanted all this information out. This is non-binding. It doesn't have to be exactly what this says. So Everyone was like, okay, let's just get the information out there and make it so this is what we've agreed to. And now everyone can make their judgments one way or the other.
So that's another beauty of this to me, right? So now it's done. Now it's moving forward. We're on to the next phase. And you already talked about it. We should do a story on that, right? We should do a story on a bunch of stuff. And I think a lot of people will be doing those stories to help people make better informed opinions between now and when they go to the polls. You know, this doesn't feel like somebody running for office, obviously, right? I mean, I want to know every damn thing about it.
Exactly.
Right. And I think a lot of other people do too. And I think people's concerns are what they are. I mean, I have concerns as well. You know, there's some of this that seems a little foolhardy to me, you know, and how we're all going about this. But the bottom line is, you know, when you've got NDAs and stuff going on behind the scenes, you know, there's a reason why I think people's interest on this and there's a movement to try to figure out what exactly will I be voting for? How will this affect me? Not only in the pocketbook, if you're a visitor to our city on this particular run,
by 0.25%.
Right. But you know, how is it going to affect me long term? You know, we've said this before, right? Looking at the models, which we don't know that even that's going to look like that, because I think you made that point, right? As we go forward. But who doesn't want that in their town? I do. But how do we get there? That's, I think, where we're at.
Yeah, a question came in from Tasha Hicks. She says, does this vote cover Project Marvel in its entirety?
No.
Or just the Spurs portion? And maybe you could break down a little bit about what's the difference between Project Marvel and the Spurs Arena?
So Spurs Arena is part of Project Marvel. Like whenever you're talking about the Spurs Arena, you're talking about Project Marvel tangentially. It's almost like every square or every rectangle is a square, but every square is not a rectangle. It's kind of like that. What, you know, like geometry jokes?
Whenever I'm confused, I just try to bring it back to geometry.
Yeah, I mean, I think of things weird, okay? Anyway, so the Spurs Arena is part of Project Marvel. It's one of the 3 anchor projects of Project Marvel. You have the Alamo Dome, the Convention Center, and the Spurs Arena. So the Spurs Arena is the piece that is kind of wants to get done first. They want to get the Convention Center done as well. So the entire hemisphere area is going to be a big orange, like this color cone for a long time, I'm going to guess. But Project Marvel as a whole is a $4 billion infrastructure plan that is the Alamo Dome, and it's a new hotel downtown, and it's a new school for UTSA, a new building for them down there, which I'm assuming that they're going to get kind of in exchange for giving the land to the ITC land, the Institute of Texan Culture's land, to the cities that will now be leased to the Spurs. But that's part of that. UTSA is involved in this. There's so many different parties. They're going to redo the courthouse down there.
Wood building.
Yeah, the wood. Yeah, they're going to redo the courthouse down there for another concert venue, which is going to be a 3,000 to 4,000 person concert venue. And so, Project Marvel is the entire 15-year, $4 billion plan. The arena is just a small portion of that. It's one of the projects within the giant master project. So, and that's the best way I can kind of describe that. Is
That's good. No, that's good. That's good. Thanks.
I think it's one of the most consequential projects because you have the biggest, one of the biggest businesses in our area, one of 30 NBA teams, and you'll hear from Councilman White here in a second, the best NBA team in our area. And they're the ones that give so much back to the community, and they're the ones that kind of want to move downtown, and you have the biggest draw in that area, I would argue, 41 times a year. Hopefully more if they get into the playoffs. But
amen.
That's like why everyone's focused on that. I don't think once they start talking about redoing the convention center, or expanding the convention center, or building the new hotel downtown, which is going to be private equity, you're not going to see 108 people signed up. You're going to see 108 people for building a new arena for downtown, or a new downtown arena for a billionaire organization. You're not going to see it for the city trying to expand their convention center. I mean, do you think so? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to it's the two asks of the public, right? This first one, we're going to call it what it is. It's essentially for the preponderance of it, as you pointed out, for the visitors. And then the second ask is going to be for the infrastructure around that, the roads, the streets, the bridges, all of that stuff. So I thought Jeff Webster made a really good point today. You know, the way you're looking, the way I tend to look at these things, you know, it's, you know, we're under the assumption if you have the Alamo Dome, build it, they will come. You have the AT&T Center, build it, and they will come. This is a little different in that this is build it and we'll build it, because they're going to build all the stuff around that goes along with it. And, you know, so I think if you look at it from that layer or that prism, you know, they're going to have all that stuff that they're hoping would come to the east side when they built the AT&T Center, and likely the same with the Alamo Dome, that now they're going to take care of that aspect for their arena so that it's multi-purpose in some ways, and that it's a place to hang out, not just go watch a basketball.
And that's what they mean by an anchor project. It's one of the things that once you build it, then you can continue with the rest of the development. You can continue with the apartments and the housing and the offices and the shopping, the brick and mortar stores and the restaurants. You can build all that stuff after you approve the anchor project that all of it's going to surround. You're not going to build all that around a parking lot. You're going to build all that around a thing that's going to draw 20,000 people a night into that area. And so that's what they mean by anchor project. There's one other thing that I thought was really, or a couple of other things, but I'll be here all day if I just keep talking about this.
That's all right. We're learning.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting today was I had a huge question coming into this that I couldn't get a clear answer to the other day, which was, how does the $489 million that the city's going to put in, at least what they're supposed to be putting in, how does it get paid back if the city just issues bonds in 2028 and they're taking on debt like that? They laid out exactly what percentages today is going to come from the project finance zone, what is going to come from the arena lease, what's going to come from the ground leases, what's going to come from the TERS, the hemisphere TERS tax. So they kind of laid all of that out, and I thought that it was good that they had those answers, because I was like, okay, well, I've asked this question 4 times, no one's giving me a freaking answer. Do they just not have it? Do they not know? They finally know that 52% is going to come from the TERS, the ground lease, and the stadium lease, and then 48% is going to come from that project finance zone, which can't be made or can't be used anywhere else. So that means the rest of that project finance zone money is going to go Alamo Dome and Convention Center, which is what they're looking to do anyway. The other thing was, a lot of people were concerned that the $489 million that's going to be issued as debt from the city in 2028 as part of these bonds to pay for the arena, to help pay for the arena. They were worried that taking on that debt for the arena would hamper the city's ability to take out debt for infrastructure, take out debt for other things. City manager said that that's not something that'll happen either, in that it does not affect their ability to take out other debt and does not affect their credit rating. Two things that I was really confused about and wanted to know going into this as a concerned citizen of San Antonio. I wanted to know those answers, and I got both of those answers today, so that was good. Last thing I want to get to, last soundbite, is Mark White. He's been kind of the one that's been leading the charge, not only for Project Marvel and moving forward with this, but kind of against Gina as well. They've been, if you were on Twitter at all over the last couple of days, you've probably seen him, like, I'm going to say pushing loosely. It's through no other, because I don't have another term for it, but he was kind of like moving her arm out of the way when she took the mic from him. He didn't like push her, because it's not pushing, but he was like moving her arm while she took the mic at a public event that was supposed to be talking about the budget. She kind of commandeered that meeting as well to talk more about Project Marvel. So they've kind of been at odds at each other, and he had this to say at the meeting today.
When we all talk about these economic analyses that we're looking for, I honestly do not believe that there is an economic analysis out there that can truly value the San Antonio Spurs' worth to San Antonio. There's only 30 of these franchises in the United States of America. We happen to be lucky enough to have the best one. This is a team, this is an organization that wins on the court, they win off the court, and they help San Antonio win in so many areas off the court. And in this particular negotiation, what I've seen over the past couple of years is they have acted in good faith and as a partner in this process. And there's no better evidence of that than when we look at, who's paying for what percentage of this project, that the Spurs are in it for over 50% of this deal.
You've lived here longer than I. How do you quantify what the Spurs mean, both economically and socially, to the city of San Antonio?
Well, we talk about this all the time, right? I mean, your pro sports teams are the front porch for your entire city, right? I mean, without the Spurs, and especially without the Spurs and a boatload of championships, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Mark White is factual when he says what he says. I mean, you can't possibly measure that in terms of city recognition, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been on the road somewhere or at a sporting event in Timbuktu or wherever, and just to try to get the conversation and try to bring wherever I'm at and bring it a little bit back to San Antonio. And no matter who you ask, what do you think when you think of San Antonio? Almost 100% of the time it's, oh, the Spurs, of course. Mm-hmm. And then they'll start naming players or whatever. I mean, it's not measurable. He's right, and I don't know where this all stands in terms of where they're thinking about long-term or what's the next move going to be. Obviously, they're going to have to look at all their options if either one of these two asks don't come to fruition for them. But I honestly don't even know how to answer your question, my friend. I don't.
Well, I don't know if there is an answer. I don't know if you can quantify. I think he's right. I don't know if you can quantify what the Spurs have meant to San Antonio. Economically, I'm sure you could figure that out. People much smarter than me can figure that out. I bring up geometry and get yelled at.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and I think, I think, to them,
way, she thanked you for that. Oh, by the way,
and I've told this story before too. Man, when I was a kid living here, San Antonio and Phoenix were the same town. San Antonio was here, Austin was here. Look what's happened in my lifetime. I mean, Phoenix is on a whole nother wavelength in terms of business, growth, not necessarily with people, because we're obviously growing in that regard. But
Well,
the Spurs in this regard are fighting a lot of monsters, and they're fighting a lot of what hasn't occurred here over the decades, and it's all kind of coming to head in one fail swoop. So, in that regard, I feel bad for him, because this, in a lot of ways, it's not a fair fight because of what hasn't occurred here. We had AT&T here; they leave. I could go through. We've got some things that are, obviously, it's not completely barren, but by
tech, medical, military.
Austin, we have, Austin doing what it's doing. And, I think somebody pointed this out though. Austin has done just fine. And how many major sports do they have in their town right now?
The University of Texas.
Well, they have that, of course, right? Which goes to a bigger problem too, if you're
exactly.
talking about moving Austin, right?
Exactly.
I mean, are they going to give up the Moody Center for all those dates? I mean, this thing is so effing layered, right?
Yeah.
I mean, on so many levels, my head's about to pop thinking about the possibilities of how this could spin off. So I'm as curious as anybody now. We've gone to another hurdle in this, in terms of where the Spurs would like this to go, and obviously now the city leaders where they would like this to go. Now let's see what happens in November, and then we're going to know a lot more in November, right? If this first one passes, then we'll see. You've got another 6 months until May, till the next ask, which is, I would argue, a much bigger one and a much
100%.
tougher sell.
100%.
So let's go tell the stories, right? Spitball this thing into the 1,000 different ways that we can spitball it. And I'm sure we'll think of some between now and the day.
I'm sure I'll think of some as soon as we log off.
Right.
Two things I want to get to, or two things I just want to say before we get out of here. One, this is the shortest rundown I've ever had, and this is the longest podcast we've done in a month. So sorry. But other thing I wanted to say was, I just saw on Twitter, apparently at the end of the council session, the mayor floated the idea of this 400. Right now, the bonds that this $489 million is going to come from there's no vote necessary for that, except for city council votes. It doesn't have to go to the public, doesn't have to go to voters. She is now saying, I want that to go to voters. And now the rest of the council is like, that's not legal. So this fight is far from over, is all I'm trying to say. Is there's so many other things that are going to happen over the next few months that those bonds won't be issued until 2028. So you're going to keep hearing Spurs Arena, Project Marvel for the next few years, and whether that's good or bad. But right now, where we sit, November 4th, you're going to get to cast your vote if you are a Bexar County resident, whether the venue tax is raised by 0.25% to raise another $150 million that will all go to the Spurs for their new arena, in theory, if you vote yes on that. Anybody else, Bob, before we get out of here?
I just want to shout out to all the good people in the 219.
As do I. We'll be there soon.
Do you want to give a quick comment on Joe Flacco? Or?
Well, what? Just because he's a starter?
Yeah.
Why are you going to throw something at me?
I don't know.
I think so. Let's talk about Joe Flacco for a second.
No,
all right?
Josh, just kidding.
So it's they'll probably be at best 3-3 after the first 6 games, right? And most probably more like 2-6. So Flacco will last through this first 6 games, then the fun will start. We'll see who's going to actually play.
Sorry, I opened this can of worms. That's all we got for today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. I did that without my sheet today. That's pretty impressive. I've only done this 219 times. We'll see you on Monday with more.